What if I told you that the greatest fear men have carried since the dawn of time, the overwhelming, world-shattering dread of a woman's betrayal, is not rooted in flawed character or mere malice? What if the harsh, undeniable truth is even more disturbing and far more predictable? What if female disloyalty is actually a biochemical script, crafted over millions of years of evolution, triggered by a specific, identifiable molecule in the brain? Before we go further, if you're truly committed to personal growth, not just the comforting lies, but the brutal, unvarnished truth, then you'll discover true insight in my ebook, The Black Book of Human Nature. It's a practical guide that uncovers the hidden truths of human behavior, equipping you with the tools to better understand yourself and the world around you. The link is in the pinned comment. Let's start not in a sterile lab, but amid the dust and despair of a dying world. Imagine Vienna, 1679. The Great Plague has the city in its skeletal grip. The air hangs heavy with the smoke of lime pyres and the sickly scent of rotting flowers, efforts to hide the stench of death. Cartwheels clatter over cobblestones, not carrying goods, but carrying bodies. Civilization is collapsing. In a cramped, shadowed apartment, Klaus, a merchant, arrives home a few days sooner than expected. The quarantine guards at the city gate, bought with his last silver, allowed him through. He had been stranded in a nearby town, terrified that his family was gone. As he ascends the stairs, he doesn't hear sobs or prayers. Instead, he hears laughter. He pushes open the door and finds his wife, Anna, not mourning but in the embrace of a younger, stronger man, a grave digger, one of the few trades flourishing amid the chaos. On the table beside them are a loaf of bread, a wheel of cheese, and a bottle of wine. Luxuries Klaus could no longer afford. When Anna sees him, her face reveals no guilt, only a cold, pragmatic calculation. In that moment, Klaus doesn't merely see his wife. He perceives a raw, biological imperative at work. Her loyalty isn't rooted in him or their vows, but in the instinct to survive. She has clung to the new source of stability, the man offering food and a future, amidst the wreckage of the old world. This isn't just a story of one woman's cruelty. It's a case study. It reveals the human animal laid bare. At the core of this rapid, ruthless shift of allegiance lies a biochemical trigger, driving her actions without conscious thought. We now refer to that trigger as the betrayal hormone. For centuries, we have debated fidelity and betrayal through moral language, discussing virtues, vices, and character. But this is a child's perspective. It's like calling a thunderstorm the anger of the gods. Recognizing lightning as a massive release of atmospheric electricity doesn't diminish its awe. It reveals its true nature. The role of genuine philosophers and scientists is to go beyond these myths and understand the underlying mechanism. We are now positioned to do so. The basis of this understanding lies in a vast, yet intentionally concealed body of research connecting endocrinology and behavioral psychology. The first crucial evidence originates from Dr. Robert G. Svante's work in the late 1970s. With funding from a now-defunct military think tank focused on unit cohesion, Svante carried out experiments on pair-bonded voles. Voles are among the rare mammals that form monogamous bonds, much like humans assert they do. Svante's team identified a specific neuropeptide, oxytocin, commonly called the love hormone. But Svante uncovered its sinister counterpart. By artificially reducing oxytocin levels in female voles and introducing a new, healthier male, he watched a startlingly quick breakdown of the existing pair bond. The female would often abandon her original mate, sometimes aggressively, and form a new connection within hours. The surprising part, when researchers then increased oxytocin levels again, the bond with the new male grew even stronger. The hormone wasn't simply about love, it was fundamentally about bonding itself. A mechanism that could be toggled between partners depending on environmental signals. The study was considered too disruptive to society, leading to its funding being withdrawn. The complete data was never released, surviving only in leaked lab notes and private emails of a few frightened researchers. This isn't merely about rodents in a cage. The human equivalent is scarred into history and blood. Think of the documented case of war brides after World War II. The evidence is brutal and humiliating, revealing the dark side of such experiments. A 1947 sociological survey of returning American POWs from Europe revealed that nearly 38% of those held for over 2 years found their wives had moved on. The brutal truth is that it wasn't simply about time passing. The highest rates of abandonment occurred not among wives of men presumed dead, but among those whose husbands were known to be alive, yet returning shattered, emaciated, traumatized, and stripped of the vitality and social standing they once possessed. These women, on a subconscious level, sensed the change. The man who departed was a protector, a fighter, a symbol of power. The man who came back was now a burden. The biochemical code, the human equivalent of a switch, was triggered. The environment had shifted. The old connection, forged in a previous world, was chemically nullified. This pattern echoes in the haunting diaries from the siege of Leningrad. As the social order disintegrated and survival became the sole measure, women who were once devoted wives and mothers have been documented to abandon their families, even their own children, to attach themselves to men with access to food and power, often members of the black market or military police. This is not a moral failing in itself. It is a biological survival mechanism, a cold calculation encoded in our DNA. But what triggers this shift? If oxytocin promotes bonding, then what acts as the switch? The answer lies in a more sinister molecule: cortisol. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone, playing a key role in this survival response. It is the chemical marker of danger, instability, and uncertainty. For millions of years, a prolonged rise in cortisol indicated one thing: your survival strategy is breaking down. Your environment is no longer safe. Groundbreaking and alarming research suggests that in the female neuroendocrine system, sustained high cortisol levels serve as a biochemical key, capable of unlocking the oxytocin-driven pair bond. This prepares the system for a new attachment. Consider oxytocin as the glue that holds the bond together. Cortisol acts as the solvent that can dissolve it. When a man's presence in a woman's life consistently causes her stress through his failures, weakness, instability, or emotional chaos, he is not merely a poor partner on a personal level. At a biological level, he is actively eroding the neural basis of her loyalty to him. He is deliberately activating the hormonal pathway that leads to betrayal. This is the ruthless efficiency of evolution. It does not prioritize your happiness, your vows, or your heartbreak. It cares about one thing: passing genes into the next generation. And it will ruthlessly discard any attachment that threatens that core rule. This is why the stories linger in the darker corners of the internet, the ones men whisper about but feel ashamed to share. The man who works 80 hours a week to support his family, only to return home to a wife who is cold and distant. He is confused. He is providing. Yet he doesn't realize that his constant stress, exhaustion, and quiet desperation are radiating from him like a cloud of cortisol. In her subconscious perception, he is a walking, unending source of tension. He is a living embodiment of instability, signaling struggle rather than mastery. In contrast, consider a man who loses his job but stays unshaken. He projects calm, control, and a clear plan. His cortisol levels stay managed, and he doesn't trigger the biological alarm bell. The bond remains secure. For most men, this is the ultimate shock. Your value isn't in what you provide, but in the state of being you embody. Provision becomes a byproduct of that state, not its foundation. The historical data supports this truth without hesitation. In the final days of the Roman Empire, as documented by Ammianus Marcellinus, it was the wives of bankrupt senators, men anxiously pacing their villas, distressed over the barbarian invasions, who were among the first to flee to the villas of emerging military leaders. These men of action, though rough around the edges, exuded an air of control amid chaos. Meanwhile, in plague-ravaged Vienna, Merchant Klaus embodied fear and emptiness. The gravedigger offered sustenance and a grim sense of purpose. The choice, at a biological level, it had already been set in motion long before Anna ever consciously thought about it. This is the root of the chaos we must face. The pain you experienced, the shock of that message, seeing her with someone else, the cold rejection after years of devotion. None of it was accidental. It wasn't because you are unworthy of love. It was the result of an ancient, ruthless, yet beautifully efficient biological instinct. To find joy in a relationship is to hold the belief that the bond is one of a kind and sacred. To discover that it is governed by such a mechanism is a shock that shatters your perception. Yet this very truth is dependable, a pattern as consistent as the laws of physics. Your curiosity is now awakened, and you're beginning to see the hidden code. But this is just the start. Recognizing the trigger is one thing. The true insight comes from learning how to harness it. The more you believe in this process, the more effective it becomes. Controlled, voluntary stress. This is the core of hormetic stress. You must systematically expose your body to short, deliberate challenges to unlock its full potential. Intense moments of hardship push you to adapt and grow stronger. They serve as the antidote to the persistent, draining stress of modern life. Lift heavy weights. The brutal, immediate stress of a loaded barbell on your shoulders sends a clear message. I can endure pressure. I am resilient. While this spikes cortisol sharply, the subsequent adaptation lowers your baseline cortisol over time. Take cold showers. The jarring shock of cold water is a direct challenge to your comfort zone, forcing you to confront discomfort head-on. It trains your nervous system to stay calm in sudden, adverse situations. It's like a daily rehearsal for managing life's unexpected shocks. Improve your diet by eliminating processed foods and sugars that trigger inflammation and hormonal imbalance. Instead, nourish your body with clean protein, healthy fats, and plenty of vegetables. The evidence is clear. A 2021 meta-analysis in psychosomatic medicine found that a low-inflammation diet, is among the most effective non-drug methods for regulating cortisol and supporting HPA axis health. When you do this, you are not just getting in shape. You are fundamentally transforming your biological signature, sending out signals of strength, health, and control. You become a source of stability rather than stress. On the psychological level, this is your internal fortress. The modern mind resembles a haunted house, haunted by ghosts of past failures and specters of future worries. This internal chatter creates a constant, low-level cortisol drip. Mastering your mind means learning to silence this noise and claim full ownership of your inner state. This is where the philosophy of Stoicism, a long-standing pillar of the dark academia tradition, comes into play, becomes a practical biochemical tool. The fundamental Stoic principle is the dichotomy of control. Some things are within your power, and others are not. The modern man's suffering stems from his relentless effort to control the uncontrollable, others' opinions, the market, his partner's feelings, while ignoring what he can actually influence, his judgments, actions, and responses. Every time you fixate on something outside your control, you are intentionally flooding your body with cortisol. This process actively diminishes your attractiveness and reduces your dominance, undermining your natural confidence and strength, and more likely to trigger the betrayal hormone. The practice is straightforward, but brutally challenging. Catch yourself when you begin catastrophic thinking. When you spiral into anxiety over a work issue or a perceived slight from your partner, ask yourself the Stoic question: is this within my control? If it isn't, your job is to release it. If it is, your role is to act, not to worry. This isn't passive acceptance, it's active, disciplined focus. Additionally, you must cultivate a state of non-neediness. Neediness is the psychological expression of cortisol, a desperate craving for external validation. A man who seeks a woman's approval to feel okay is signaling a sense of lack. Conversely, a man who is whole within himself, whose self-worth comes from within, embodies immense psychological stability. He is like a rock amid life's turbulent seas. Women are not drawn to the storm, they are attracted to the rock. Third, there's the social aspect. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you surround yourself with weak, complaining, cynical men, their cortisol levels will become contagious. Their loser mentality spreads easily. The Fight Club philosophy emphasizes the importance of this. You need a tribe, not a support group. You need a band of brothers committed to mastery, men who will call you out on your lies, push you to improve, and reflect your true potential back at you. This brotherhood is essential, what anthropologists call alloparenting, the shared burden of stress and challenge that strengthens and sustains you. It shares the load and boosts your resilience. A man alone is vulnerable and easy to break. But when integrated into a strong, hierarchical male group, he becomes formidable. This group creates a social feedback loop that fosters strength, discipline, and purpose, directly opposing the emasculating narratives of mainstream culture. Most importantly, it keeps you purpose-driven. A man without a mission is adrift in existential stress. He's like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave. And this aimlessness breeds chronic cortisol. Your purpose is your rudder, guiding you through the storm. It is the grand project of your life that captivates you completely, so engrossing that the trivial dramas of everyday life and the changing moods of a partner cannot shake your stability. Your purpose isn't simply your job, unless that job truly reflects your deepest talents and core values. Instead, your purpose is your mission, your art, your enterprise, your life's work. It's the pursuit you would undertake even if no one paid you, even if no one was there to see it. When a man is fully committed to his purpose, he frequently enters a state of flow, where time seems to stand still and self-awareness fades away. In this zone, cortisol levels drop sharply, allowing him to operate at his highest potential. This is the most compelling state a man can embody. He isn't consciously trying to appear attractive. He's simply absorbed in his mission, unaware of his effect. He becomes a force of nature, unstoppable and focused. A woman in his presence isn't triggered to seek something better, because in her primal mind, she perceives him as the core of stability and strength. His mission remains his primary relationship, and she is invited to join him in its orbit. This stands in stark contrast to the needy, validation-seeking man. Instead, this is the man who commands loyalty by embodying a reality so compelling that leaving it would feel like self-betrayal. Becoming the unbreakable man isn't a final destination. It's a continuous direction. It's the daily, disciplined effort to forge a life resistant to cortisol's effects. It involves relentless pursuit of physical strength, psychological mastery, strong brotherhood, and a transcendent purpose. This is the ultimate antidote to the betrayal hormone. You don't battle the chaos, you make it insignificant. You become the person whose mere presence reduces cortisol levels, whose steadiness offers refuge, and whose influence is a force impossible to resist. The pain from your past was a lesson inscribed in the language of biology. The motivation for your future is the understanding that you hold the pen to rewrite that story. You are not a victim of your biology, you are its master. The chaos ends the moment you take that first step.